Good morning, hello everybody, and welcome to another Kerfuffle webinar. Thank you, Eric. Look at you all doing the waving. It's not family fortunes. What's going on here? It's honestly, geez. Okay, it's a serious panel discussion for no letting go. Partners of ours. Here we go. Let's first of all tee it up with the man himself, Nick Lyons. How are you, sir, today? Okay.
Very well, thank you. Very well, and I hope you're well too.
I know you've made sure that I'm on best behaviour because you have assembled blue blood royalty of a state agency here today. I'm going to tug my forelock as I go around to all these people.
Absolutely, you've got to be on best behaviour.
Well, best for me is a relative thing, isn't it? So let's kick off as we go around in turn there, just in terms of, if you wouldn't mind, just introduce yourself. Alison, would you just kick off for those few people in the industry that don't know you? Just give us a bit of your background.
Sure. Alison Nunez, currently working for McCarthy & Stone. I introduced over the last 2 years the rental proposition into our retirement communities. Before that, I was with the MD for Andrews Property Group, and before that, long-term at Countrywide.
And I know you predominantly because you shamelessly used to go and pick up more awards on stage than me, and that's pretty much if you're more of an award junkie than me, you're doing well, believe me. So yes, that's you used to do it with a little bit more decorum. That's all I'll say. So,
I'm not sure I did actually. I used to think I was so excited that I probably didn't.
I told you. Nick told me to be polite, so that was my attempt at that. Anyway, Carrie, welcome here to have you today. Would you just give us a bit of background yourself?
Yeah, thank you. Hiya, I'm Carrie. I am the Lettings Director for Hunters, and I've been Hunters since 2003.
Lovely, and obviously been part of a big news story recently as well. Getting together with a gentleman we'll get to in a moment down there, wearing
my new colleague. We've had lots of great chats about lettings.
Yeah, he could have got out of his kimono today, though, couldn't he? But anyway, we're coming to you, Eric. See, I like to keep you till last. Dominic, how are you, sir? You okay?
Yeah, I'm very good, thank you, Simon. Yeah, I'm the Lettings Director for the Robinson Jackson Group Lettings. Been here for just over 3 years now, coming up for 3.5 years. And before that, I was at Purple Bricks as a regional director. And before that, and started my career with Your Move and LSL, and was there for about 12 years to give the foundation. So yeah, all good, all very excited.
I always get a bit risque here, and I can only say this to men, but you've been around. That's there in the best possible sense here. You've done. That's a really great CV to be able to point out there in terms of experience. And just to let you know that you really need to be on best behaviour. Simon Woodcock, funny enough, just letting you know he's watching everything you do.
Of course he is. Yeah, there he is. There's his message coming up. He said he was going to. You know how that rolls. You know what Simon's like.
I do indeed. And yes, Mr. Kimono himself, Mr. Eric Walker. How are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. This is a stylish shirt, mate. This isn't a kimono, which is a dragon, isn't it? Anyway, so I'm Eric.
This is what people tune in for, Eric. This is what people tune in for.
All the inconsistencies.
Well, people really need to get live soon. So I'm Eric. I'm MD at Martin & Co. South and Scotland, and I look after compliance for TPFG, along with Carrie, which I'm very lucky to work with. And that's about it, really. Nothing exciting. I've been in the business for 30 years, and compliance is my bag.
And yet you still look like a property Peter Pan. Beautiful. You'll have to let us know what your secret is later. You could actually say that's down to no letting go, and that'd be the perfect way. It might be a bit of an oversell, but
no, not at all.
Okay, so Nick, today we're talking about a debate on the future importance of inventory management in lettings. Before we go into just the first question on that, could you just give again just a bit of the overview of the business again, how you got here and what you're doing at the moment for the industry?
Yeah, so I originally set No Letting Go up some sort of 12, 15 years ago to provide a consistent service in inventory management throughout the market. It coincided at the time with the release of the deposit scheme back in 2007. And over the years, what we've done is we've built up the business to what is now 84 offices, sort of from all over the country. So and providing sort of many thousands of sort of move-ins and move-outs for a whole variety of clients. From sort of traditional letting agents through to property management companies, estate management companies, and the like. And what sort of happened over the years, of course, is that what started off as pure evidence-based reporting, which is obviously condition reporting, inventories and checkout, the process around the importance, if you like, of collecting information at the start of the tenancy as a mechanism to prove both obviously the outcome of a tenancy in terms of condition, but also it's things like smoke alarm testing, CO alarms, all the various legislation that's come in the last sort of 5, 6, 7 years. Is really around, for us, it's around protecting both landlords, tenants, and of course letting agents acting as duty holders to make sure that they're comfortable in the job that we're doing for them, which is sort of data collecting and evidence, if you like. So, and we've built up over the years, working closely with all of our clients to ensure we deliver the very best service that we can do for them.
Excellent. And we see that, Simon. I mean, literally your review. I encourage everyone always to go and have a look. Go have a no letting go on our wonderful Kerfuffle website and see the caliber of the people that are giving those reviews and testimonials there. It always tells you a lot about a business to see the type of business that they're working with. And Alison, if we could just kick off the first question with yourself is really, how has the inventory market changed since you started in 2007?
I mean, obviously the introduction of the deposit protection schemes meant that without a professional inventory, we didn't really have a chance in having a successful claim. I think that I come from a traditional world where most inventories were carried out in house and of a very basic nature. So the introduction, I mean, one of the big changes is the introduction of photography that came quite a few years back now, where it used to be very much, text, which could be viewed differently by whoever was either writing it or who was reviewing it. So, very much a case of, if the tenant wants, one of the tenant wants the deposit back, they need to make sure that the inventory is right for them, but obviously from a protection perspective from the agent. And I think they've just come completely full circle now and predominantly are more photographic. I mean, in my business specifically, I mean, Nick gets it easy with our business because they're all brand new apartments, because obviously we are a builder, developer, as well as selling and then renting, so they are brand new. So from a quality perspective, to try and bring apartments back up to a new condition when they've all been new from the beginning is quite tough. So the images have to be so detailed. And I think if I went back now and looked at the images that we were producing in house sort of 10 years ago, I'd be absolutely horrified.
It's in the past, you're fine.
I know. Yeah, and I'm probably no longer there.
Okay. And can I ask the same question to you, Carrie, if that's okay? How's it changed for you?
Yeah, very similar, really. I remember doing inventories back in the day, and I'd be horrified if I looked at them now to see the lack of detail. So although there were lots of challenges when 2007 came along, I think what it did is actually gave us the opportunity to be better ourselves. And when you look at what the rules and the regs were, which we were still learning, being able to use someone like No Letting Go, it was an opportunity for us to do it right, and an opportunity for us to make sure that the end of the tenancy process was nice and smooth, because of course that's the end game, isn't it? That's where we want to get to a good, easy resolution on behalf of all the different parties. But yeah, I remember we used to have them very, like Alison was saying, very just written. Then we started doing adding photographs, and then of course when 2007 came in, it was all changed and it was so much more detailed and effort, but just made you better anyway.
And so do you believe, broadly speaking, that these improvements have been worthwhile?
Yeah, I do think so, because, like I say, at the end of tenancy process, when it's such a clear, robust, compliant document, you've less, you've got less arguments or less disputes if you've done it right, obviously, or if they've done it right, because the combination of the written word and the photography, along with all the other things that come as part of it, which is the descriptions and what clean means or what good means. I think it makes it very clear for the agent to be able to explain it well to the tenant and the landlord. So it's a robust document that you have to take your time to make sure that it's good.
And it's like everything, isn't it? More transparency, more can only open things up and help the whole process, can't it?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, if you look back at, not that it probably was me, back in 2003, if I did an inventory then, it'd say walls. Yeah, great.
Walls.
That's not good enough, and that's what we all learn.
But I think it's worth pointing out as well is that over this whole period, one of the biggest challenges, particularly as organisations have consolidated as well, when you've got centralised property management centres and whatever, is the consistency. Because if you've got multiple people negotiating on behalf of the landlord and tenant, getting to the right outcome, you don't really want it to go to the dispute service. It's adds to the whole process. It delays all the money coming back, etc. And getting that consistency of inventory reporting, the checkouts, what it does is it means people see the same thing all the time, and it's about confidence in the data, so that you can be confident that the people that have provided that data for you.
There's no second guessing, is there?
It's trusting something. And the days that Alison and Carrie refer to back in the early days, of course, when you had 4 walls, it was a tick box: excellent, very good, good, poor. Landlords ticked everything as excellent, and tenants ticked everything as poor. And you had to negotiate between the two. Now it's a lot more transparent. There's good detail at the beginning, and at the end of the day, we're registering change. That's all we're doing. We're saying walls white, now it's blue, subject to agreement by the landlord. That's a liability, and therefore there's a decision to be made on it. And it's about transparency and clarity around that.
That's really good to know. And Dominic, does your experience chime very much with what everyone said so far, or do you see it any differently?
Well, no, I agree with everyone, to be fair. I think the inventory whole process has become intrinsic to the tenancy cycle right from the off all the way through to the checkout process, to be fair. I think the law did need to be changed back in the day, because back in the day I used to work with a lot of student landlords, and typically speaking, they would just run away with the deposit at the end of each tenancy. So the law changing in relation to tenancy deposit did need to be made. But now, due to that, the inventory and the checkout process becomes intrinsic to actually securing the landlord's property against any potential damages that may be done. That's kind of my view behind it. And we tell each of our clients that without getting one of those done, then you're leaving yourself wide open. It could be an absolute catastrophe for the landlord if they don't have that inventory carried out. I think it's more relevant, even more so now, because as the years have gone by, tenants have become quite clued up, is probably the best way of putting it. And so on that basis, they know how the process works now. So if they move into a property that doesn't have an inventory to record the condition of it, they know at the end of the tenancy, they may well have a very good claim of getting all their money back without any sort of repercussions for any damages they've done. So the market has changed quite drastically in relation to the inventory side of things, but I think it's for the better for both tenants and for landlords, because it protects against bad tenants, but also protects against bad landlords on the opposite side to that, on the flip side of it.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Eric?
I think Dominic's brought up a slightly separate issue, which I absolutely agree with, and what I was going to say, so thanks for spoiling it.
You're welcome.
The thing is, when I first started in this industry, the inventory was more about making sure a tenant hadn't nicked a couple of forks and a mug. And what's changed is there's been a massive shift away from an inventory being there to penalise a tenant to being there to protect a tenant. And I think an inventory has become a really important working, living document. It doesn't just start at the start of a tenancy and end at the end of a tenancy. It's used all the way through it to mark the evolution of condition in the property. And I think the big change isn't just photography, it's video, because a photograph of a wall doesn't always show you scale, but a video can show you an awful lot more. So I think it's become a document to protect both parties, whereas before 2007, it was pretty much there to protect a landlord.
And I love that as a living document that actually evolves, you know, and where it does represent both sides, it's equal and balanced, is where these things have to do. Otherwise, they don't really become fit for purpose, do they?
No. And one of my worries that I've seen with people in the past is when they get to a end of tenancy, the tenancy is being determined, and what do they want? They want the check-in report to compare it with the check-out. Well, that document should have been working every couple of months, every 3 months, every 6 months throughout the term of the tenancy and updated, which is where no letting go presents such a good opportunity. Have I quoted you correctly, Nick?
Yeah, well, so the way so obviously the move in at on the inventory side is that detailed document. It's like that MOT done at that sort of front end. At the tenancy, there's constant midterms that are going on, which are used obviously, as you know, Eric, for the purpose of not only for us, you know, as somebody representing our clients to check on the contractual obligations that, you know, the tenant's meeting, excessive fair wear and tear, are they subletting, etc., etc. But it's also used as a very powerful tool to build relationships. So it's a way for a tenant to be able to talk to somebody almost independent of the agent to raise certain issues, which might be related to I don't know, you know, noise from the neighbours. It could be issues that related to damp they've spotted. Whether it's damp or not is debatable, but you've still got to record it. And what it does is it builds up an element of evidence. And when it comes to a dispute, should one come at the end, then what you've actually got is you've got a, as you rightly say, Eric, you've got a record of information that is used as part of the negotiation, or should it go further than that, it's evidence used to come to the correct outcome. You know, the devil's in the detail at the end of the day. It's all about the paperwork, as we know from lettings per se.
Spot on. That's really comprehensive. And actually, we just had some more feedback here from another man who knows a little bit about all this stuff. So, Mr. Byfield here, evidence, facts, and framework essential for every agent and landlord. Just concur with that point earlier, and then all just making that he just thinks it's gone a little bit the other way. Actually, I'd argue that the inventory now protects the landlord. So, Eric, you and Christian can arm wrestle that at the next venue we're at together.
Listen, he just wants an argument. Ignore him.
And I know you to run away from those.
Well, we used to say, I used to do a presentation years ago to the landlord market, and you know, we used to say to them, disputes are determined at the beginning of a tenancy, not the end. So we used to say that, look, get your paperwork in order, good tenancy agreements, good images. Don't cut corners. If you do it correctly right at the very beginning, then actually the process of managing a property throughout its life cycle is so much easier. You know, it minimises all the arguments and all that sort of thing. So, yeah, that is, you know, really what not only inventories obviously, but all the other paperwork as well.
Can I just say, in the interest of not upsetting any Viking friends of ours, I don't disagree. I don't disagree with what Christian's saying, but really a tenancy agreement shouldn't be there to protect one party more than the other. It should be a fair and balanced record to protect both parties equally. All right. I think the evolution of it has moved more towards the tenant because they had virtually no rights before. Money just went. And I think that's a good thing. It protects both parties.
Well, I'll add in the complexity of in my business that actually we tend to negotiate with third parties at the end of our tenancies because of the majority of our customers are, you know, of a certain age, they're retirement. So we'd have to actually, a decent imagery, you know, needs to be as good for someone who's possibly never even seen the property before, working on behalf of a tenant. And that can be a really difficult situation. And I completely agree with the visits and the midterms. What we have a lot of is alterations and permissions during a tenancy as well. So it's making sure that you track any changes that you know, permissions and changes and alterations during the tenancy term as well. In an accurate way against the inventory, because we get a lot of that.
And with you, Alison, it'll also include the snagging element with new build, won't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So there will be quite a lot of elements on a checkout, for example, that sit under snagging. So we have that in the mix as well, which can be quite interesting. But and they evolve over time, like you say, Eric. Snagging, especially shrinkage, etc., on new properties will happen over the space of a couple of years. So having that accurate inventory right at the beginning to show that wasn't in place and that has evolved over time as the property's matured is essential.
And Alison, you were talking about before, obviously previously, where you'd be doing these in-house, and you now have the opportunity, don't you, to either outsource to professional organisations like No Letting Go, or to do them in-house using specialist software such as Capture itself. I'd just like to ask the panel, how do you decide on which route is best for you? And let's just kick off with Dominic, if it's okay this time, because I'm a stickler for fairness, basically.
Well, yeah, to be fair, it really depends on the individual business. I mean, when we go out to our landlords and discuss the whole process and the importance of an inventory, a lot of the time they think we're being very anal about it. But it's when we start speaking about the detail and why it's there to actually produce, then yeah, it's just an explanation process for landlords to explain why we're doing it and what we're going to protect them for. In relation to outsourcing and having it in-house, it's then on a business by business perspective, I would say, because from our own viewpoint, we do outsource the inventory side of it because, as Nick correctly stated, that's very much the beginning of the whole process. So if that part goes wrong, then you're fundamentally just kind of making it difficult for yourself moving forward, both you and the landlord and the tenant themselves. So we outsource our inventories initially, but in-house we use the Capture software. So we do our property visits using Capture in connection with TechLet, and we carry out our in-house checkout process as well. And the reason why we made that decision is purely on the basis that if you're a property manager and you're having to deal with maintenance that comes up over the course of any one tenancy term, and then at the end of the process, you're then negotiating a checkout, in our view, it makes it very difficult for a property manager to have those negotiations and speak categoric about any changes that may have taken place if they haven't actually visited the property themselves on a regular basis and seen it firsthand. So we use a professional outsourcing process with No Letting Go in relation to the setting up of the whole process, and then use in-house using their Capture software to make sure we can then detail any amendments or any changes that have taken place over the course of the term.
That's really interesting to understand. Thank you. And Carrie, what's your view over at Hunters then? How did you decide? And is it a blend? What's the approach you went for?
Yeah, it is a blend. In the branches that we own, which I used to work in one of those, we've just done ours ourselves, and we've been using Capture for that for years. Throughout the rest of the franchise network, it is a blend, and they have the option which way they'd like to go. I think it's determined by how many staff and the size of the portfolio, because I think, Dominic's right in terms of carrying out the checkout, having done the property management visits during the tenancy, it really gives you a bit more confidence right at the end. So yeah, it's an absolute blend. And we have a training academy, and people, they have to go through the lettings training to be qualified, and No Letting Go take part in that. And that's whether they do them in-house, whether the network choose to do them in-house or not, they still get trained on them, so they really understand the importance of a good comprehensive inventory, and why, whether it's been outsourced or not, why it's done in a certain way, so that like Dominic said, you can explain it properly to a landlord, especially those that think they don't need one.
I think that's massively important, isn't it? That's when it changes from, I always make this point, but I don't mind repeating myself, is that it changes from being a supplier to being a partner when you get involved to that degree, that they are intrinsically at that stage helping out. And those companies that are willing to put that time and energy in will bear dividends, won't they, because of that goodwill. First of all, you get so many suppliers, and so indeed so many agencies I see bemoan the fact that they only use 30% or 50% of a package. Well, there's no great surprise in that, given the churn of staff that we have, given how much they've got on, given how busy the marketplace is. You really have to push front and center, don't you, to make sure that you are using these packages to your most. But the payback is that you do get a much better level of service, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. I think that, especially when we have different speakers within our training from specialist areas such as No Letting Go. They know everything that there is to know, which they share with us, and we can fire tons of questions at them and random scenarios, and that does build, and it builds the knowledge and the experience and the confidence of the staff. And even if the people taking part in that lettings course, maybe they will never do an inventory or hardly ever get involved in one, but they still learn about it, and they still get the benefit of all that knowledge, just in case we get really busy and we need to send them out to do one.
Of course, makes sense.
I mean, it's a really good point, Carrie, because what we've tried to do over the years is adapt the business to align with the different clients that we've got. And in the case of hunters, of course, you've got a large network of different offices. Some will are big enough so that outsourcing makes a lot of sense, and others are looking at it. They might be in a smaller business and combine the two. In the case of Alison's business, of course, is you haven't got necessarily people on the ground. That's not the network that you've got. So naturally, what you do, a company like ours, where we've got, I think, getting on for 400 clerks now on the ground around the UK through the offices. You've then got that enormous amount of flexibility. So people have student market, for example, where they have this big seasonal peak in the summer, which from a resource point of view is really tricky. So we look at individual clients and we work with them, whether it's combining as we do with Dominic, or whether it's completely outsourced. And
Nick, whisper it quietly to me if you have to, but do you mind which one they go for? You genuinely
no, it doesn't, because the one thing I've learned over the years is that it's a fluid market. Sometimes people might be doing stuff in house, and then suddenly everyone goes on holiday or somebody leaves, and the expertise leaves the office, and therefore we looked at it and said, well, let us be that reserve army for you around inventories. And by doing it on the same system with Capture and No Letting Go, it's all the same system. So all of the No Letting Go offices use the same software. It means that there's consistency all the way across. Everyone's doing the same thing, and whether you're doing. So for us, it's about, from a purist point of view, obviously I'd rather it was outsourced because it's purely independent from that point of view. But the market, has to adapt, and we have to adapt, obviously, to work within the organisation, if you like. So
good stuff. And Eric, would you? It would be awkward if you did disagree with Carrie here. So please try and remain on message. Do you very much the same sort of approach there? You're happy with the blend?
I have two fundamental principles in things such as this, and that is every business needs to be future-proof, and it can't have a single point of failure. And what No Letting Go does, it covers both bases. And I'm totally with Carrie, obviously. What I would say is the trouble is when you deal with a business such as Hunters and TPFG, averages aren't indicative of the extremes they represent. I can have an office with 1,500 managed properties. I can have one with 50. So I wouldn't recommend one or the other. It's horses for courses. Yeah. I don't want to impose them having to get somebody new employed on 25,000 a year to do inventories when Nick has a very cost-effective solution. That said, they may get to a critical point whereby it's in their interests to have somebody that comes in employed to do inventories, provided they're using the right software. And I really like the point that was made. You're not suppliers, you're business partners. And that's really key. Because when you look at the No Letting Go website, it's not just about the inventories, it's about the resources they put into it. Yeah. Nick's, I don't know who wrote it, it clearly wasn't Nick, but it's a fantastic piece about abandonment. And there's not even a hint of crayon. It's really well done. And it's a great resource for people to look up.
Eric Walker, ladies and gents, a man that can damn you with praise and insult.
You don't know which way. If I'm insulted or not, I'm not sure.
Yeah, you're always second guessing, are you? Okay, well, thank you again for that. A riddle within an enigma. Thank you all again for taking the time out today. It's really appreciated. Thanks for everyone who joined us. And of course, as ever, go to Nick. Obviously, you'll find him in all the normal places, but find him first and foremost on the No Letting Go page on kerfuffle.com. See some more of those wonderful reviews from other clients as well. And please drop them a line to find out how you can take advantage as these good people are here. For today, ladies and gents, thank you very much. And once more, have a great day.
Thank you.
Guys,
Bye.
Bye. Bye.